E adesso andiamo a scoprire.
Now we're going to discover the main things we must know to make a good quattro quarti cake, four quarters cake in English. We're going to use a part of chemical leavening to create the right um, leavening effect. We have our butter, always measure it around 14-15 degrees. Clearly, we always have to take into account that when we are working with the butter, we might overheat the mixture for the planetary machine action and the type of environment that's surrounding us. Clearly, keep the temperature under control when you're mixing it. It must always stay at 14-15 degrees, so the environment and the push of the machine might influence the final product. So maybe in the summer, if you see that it's overheating too much, you will realize it because it will soften too much, or you're going to just detach it for a little while and you're going to just slightly blast chill it positive, so cooling it down quickly, and then you can go on. In the winter, of course, it's the opposite, so if you see that it's very cold, you can heat it in a water bath or using a flame or a warm cloth. You're going to put the aromas. Remember that every time you have the possibility to let the aromas work with the fat part, always put them in direct contact with the fat part, because remember that everything has an essential oil inside. So in this case we're talking about lemon zest and orange zest, but all of the spices, all of the aromatic herbs, the essential oils always have some particles. The free particles tend to move in the air when I break through the membrane of the product, so when I cut or grate. If we grate them directly in the butter will fix the free particles and contain the oils that are in direct contact with the butter, and this will allow us to use less aromas compared to other solutions. So butter, aromas, and we're starting up with the machine. So after this, we're going to add our leaf paddle. Always remember that in this case, if your preparation requires it, you can add a little bit of salt. If you want a dessert that has some savoriness, in this case we're not going to add it because of the flavor simply. So remember that salt for the making of our product does not change the structure. It's just needed to create a right balance. We chose a apple that has a high acidity to create a balance that's completely natural. So butter, aromas at 14-15 degrees, and we're going to mix it. So we're going to work it a little bit, and then we're going to progressively add our icing sugar or sucrose. Remember that in this case, icing sugar must be sifted, of course. As we start seeing, always feel the underneath part of the planetary bowl to understand if the temperature you chose is optimal. Why am I telling you this? Because it's important to use in pastry. There are grams, there are balances and measurements that are fundamental, but the very important thing is to learn to feel, to use your body to feel and understand. So to use it as a measurement instrument. Clearly the thermometer will confirm whether our decisions were correct or not, but we have to start using our sensibility. Turning the machine off, we're going to insert the icing sugar, sifting it, of course. We can put it all together in this case. Again, using the help of a tablespoon so that the whole thing is quicker. Always choose a sifter that has a fine, medium fine grain. As you can see, we're almost done. You can see how many grains remained. These are all grains that might ruin your final product. So back into the planetary machine. Remember that you have a padri mass here, so don't be too quick with the speed of the machine. Always clean your working surface. Turning the machine back on, slowly in the first part. Keep pressing on it, and then we're going to increase the speed progressively. If you see that it's difficult for you to work with it, you can stop the machine, take your spatula and mix it to improve the integration between butter and sugar, or you can just lift the bowl slightly. Every now and then just hit it to allow the sugar that maybe has sticked to the sides of the bowl to move towards the bottom. So remember that we don't really need to overwork butter and sugar together. When the mixture is ready, you'll understand it because the mixture is quite smooth, it is homogeneous, and as I told you in the summer, don't overheat it too much because both icing sugar and sucrose might simulate the melting point of the butter. Lowering the speed a bit. What we're going to do now is sifting our flour, where we added the chemical leavener. We're going to use some oven paper. And we're going to sift our flour like this. See how many grains are left. This is the chemical leavener part, so we're going to push it down. We're going to sift it a few times, so we're going to put it back in the bowl and re-sift it back onto the parchment paper. Now we're going to break the eggs a bit. Don't need to whip them, just need to break them slightly. And we're going to start inserting them. The classical method requires to add them a little by little. We're not adding the flour straight away because it might stimulate some gluten formation, but if we alternate eggs and flour, we don't have the risk to stimulate the gluten, and we avoid that the eggs create clumps with the butter. Eggs do this with the butter because we are inserting a liquid and the butter, it will be hard for the butter to incorporate a watery solution like eggs, because there's a lot of water in eggs, so it will be kind of difficult in this procedure. We should insert the eggs into 6 or 7 steps, and so the eggs could separate the butter instead of entering in the butter. So we're going to put a little bit of egg, and we're going to straight away add a part of the flour, like this. Going to wait that there's a nice absorption of the two. As we see that the eggs and the flour have been incorporated, we're going to proceed with another step. So another part of the eggs and another part of the flour. Again, if you see that the planter machine is not catching all of the product, lift the bowl or stop the machine and use a spatula. Again, eggs and some more flour. Eggs again and some flour, and then as this has been incorporated, we'll go with the last step. So last part of the eggs and last part of the flour. Always keep your temperature under control, as always. So if you have a temperature that's around 25 degrees, 25-28, it means that we have a nice structure. Now we're going to turn off the machine. It is quite smooth and velvety. We're going to catch everything that's the residues of the powders, removing the excess from the paddle, and we're going to stir to insert the powder that has been sticking to the sides of the bowl. So you can see the structure is very compact and smooth. Has a good thick whipped structure. We're going to insert the mixture in our mold. You can choose a steel mold, aluminum mold, or a silicone mold. We're going to take our pastry bag, using it as always, so inserting a small part. You can use a smooth nozzle, 8 or 10 size. We're going to insert part of it inside of the tip, opening and inserting some of the product. So, again, bring the bread towards the tip, and choking the pastry bag. This is a good exercise to practice the right movement with the pastry bag, so putting a base underneath. Clearly what I'm doing here will spread during the cooking. We're just doing this to practice. We're going to take our apples or any fruit that you like to use for your cake. We're going to put them as you just spreading them as you like. When you want to make a product that's a little bit thicker than the one we are seeing, always flour your apples a little bit so that they stay exactly where you deposited them. Some more dough. Here you can change movement to practice. Remember not to go over 3/4 of the volume of your mold, because you need to leave some space for the dessert to grow, to leaven. Some more of the mixture. Removing again the air bubble inside and finishing. We're going to finish the cake by inserting our apples on top. Always give it a little bit more of a tidy design, because it's the top. Don't cut the apples too thin, because they would burn. You must slightly press them inside of the cake so that they don't burn. And then if you want to finish off with a crunchy note, you can add some brown sugar on top or dried fruit grains, as you wish. As we said before, we're going to take our 4 quarti cake and we're going to cook it in the oven for around 40 minutes at a temperature around 170, 180 degrees. And this is it for the demonstration of the 4 quarti cake.